Every nation has a prophet, but few prophets build movements powerful enough to survive death. In South Africa, one man created a religious movement so powerful that more than a century later, it still shapes lives, command loyalty, and spark conflict. This is not just a church. It is a nation of believers. This is the story of the Shembe Church that started with one man, Isaiah Shembe. At the dawn of the 20th century, South Africa was a land in crisis. Colonial rule had stripped African people of land, authority, and spiritual identity. Christianity had arrived, but it came wrapped in European control. African converts were expected to worship a foreign god, in a foreign way, under foreign leadership. It was in this environment that a new kind of faith began to grow, a faith that spoke African languages, honored African customs, and promised dignity to people who had lost almost everything. Isaiah Shembe was born in 1865 in Escort, KwaZulu-Natal. When he was around 10 years old, his parents moved to work on a farm in Harrismith. There, Shembe's responsibility was to herd cattle. At approximately 12 years of age, while taking the cattle out to graze in the wilderness, Shembe reported experiencing a profound spiritual encounter with God. According to his account, the sky around him suddenly became dark. A loud thunderstrike followed, and he heard a voice instructing him to kneel down and pray. Shembe later explained that he did not know how to pray, as his parents were not followers of traditional religion or Christianity. He said he responded to the voice by saying, "I do not know how to pray." He then claimed that a spiritual force entered his heart, and in that moment, he gained the ability to pray as well as to read and interpret the Bible. According to Shembe, this experience marked the beginning of his spiritual journey. He began to preach on barefoot in the community and also started gaining a few followers. Shembe believed God did not arrive with colonizers. He believed God was already present. Gradually, his preaching attracted followers, people searching for healing, certainty, and leadership. Shembe preached barefoot. He incorporated sacred dance. He emphasized purity, discipline, and obedience. To his followers, he was not just a preacher, he was a prophet. In 1910, Isaiah Shembe founded what would become known as the Nazareth Baptist Church. This church was different. Worship took place outdoors. Members walk barefoot in humility. Sacred dance became prayer. Saturday, not Sunday, was observed holy. The church introduced strict laws governing daily life. No alcohol or tobacco, sexual purity, no cooking on Saturdays, modest dress, gender separation during worship, absolute obedience to leadership. These rules were not suggestions, they were laws. To critics, it looked like control. To followers navigating colonial chaos, it was protection and order. The Shembe Church became more than a religion. It became a way of life. If you value African history told with depth and honesty, consider subscribing to this channel. Isaiah Shembe did not govern through committees or councils. He ruled through faith and spiritual authority. He issued commands believed to come directly from God. He interpreted scripture without challenge. He resolved disputes. He disciplined members. Stories spread rapidly. Stories of the sick being healed. stories of prophecies and divine encounters. To his followers, Shembe was not merely chosen by God, he spoke for God. Whether one believes these accounts or not, their impact was undeniable. Shembe commanded loyalty that few leaders, religious or political, could achieve. But this concentration of power created a silent problem. The church depended entirely on one man. There was no constitution, no leadership council, no formal succession process. Faith replaced structure. By the 1920s and early 1930s, the Shembe Church had grown into a mass movement. Tens of thousands gathered for pilgrimages. Entire communities reorganized life around church laws. Shembe offered Africans something rare: African leadership, spiritual certainty, and cultural dignity. The church became a parallel society with its own laws, hierarchy, and moral authority. But as numbers grew, so did the stakes. Control of the church meant control of people, land, and loyalty. But still, no successor had been clearly named. In 1935, Isaiah Shembe died. The man who had unified African believers was gone. Public mourning was intense. Followers grieved deeply. But behind the scenes, questions began to surface. Who would lead now? Who carried the prophet's authority? Was leadership inherited or divinely chosen? Different interpretations emerged, and unity began to crack. Isaiah Shembe created a movement strong enough to outlive him, but he left behind no clear line of succession. What followed would shape the church for decades through family rivalries, court battles, and violence. In episode 2, we examine the first succession struggle and the beginning of division. If you love our content, consider subscribing to this channel. See you in the next episode.